Hello. Yeah, so I'm Mix, and this is well, you can introduce yourself, but we're gonna be we're gonna be talking about tangle of like where we've come from. Was that the purpose? Was it? Yeah. So what I wanted to do was like, have like a basic uh, tangle and scuttlebutt, or yeah, and draw a diagram so that everyone's then the diagrams will get. So here is okay, cool. I've got a tablet. We'll see if we can draw. So the so the basic idea is where we started off with tangles was with threads, and threads are messages. So you might say like, "Hi others" would be my first message, and this is a post type message, and let's call this message A. And then, so I said this, and then you said, ideally this might be in a different color. You said, you published a message back saying, "Hello Mix." And the question is, and then there's a third person saying, "Can I listen in?" They're asking some question. And we've got them like linearly arranged here, and it sort of looks really all nice and convenient. But in reality, we've got these messages kind of are like spread out in space and time. And how the question and challenge is, how do we know what order they happened in? Yeah. So the simple answer is backlinks, and so each of these messages points back to the message before it. So message C says, and here's where I'm not sure if I want to use the sort of classic notation or the notation. I'm just going to jump forward to the future notation, maybe, and say previous. And so the previous of C is B, and the previous of B is A, and the previous of A is, I've been calling this null recently, as in explicitly saying there wasn't one. So this is the like basics of a thread, and so the basic tangle idea is this plus one more thing, which is like, if you wanted to reconstruct this conversation, what you could do is like start with this message, and then that would like, you could look for the backlinks, things that point to it from there, and you'd find message B, and then you could look this one up. We've added this extra convenience, which is we call this the root message, and the root message is kind of like, I think of it like a little bit like a stake in the sand, which is like, if you wanted to re-find this thread, we want like a unique ID for this thread, and so we just say, let's call the first message the unique ID. And so we say that message B is part of thread A, and message C is also part of thread A. So yeah, the root is like a thread ID, and I've also been putting this down as null. So yep, all of this is familiar so far, right? Yep, cool. So let's draw another diagram. It gets more complicated because things aren't always linear. People could be offline when things were posted, and so we start getting diagrams which look like this. And both of these declare that they're the last message they had. Yeah, so they're concurrent. And yeah, so the solution we've got for this at the moment is that each of these messages, so this has previous, I'll just write previous from now on, A, and root A. But we introduce this new idea here where a message can have multiple previous nodes. And I've been tending towards making these all arrays just to make it easier to interact with. Yep, cool. So this is where, so this is the current state of things, and actually, so things that use this are like threads, gatherings, what else? Books, probably polls, yeah, probably chess as well. Yeah, so all of these things are using this. One of the, yeah, so what's interesting though is that in practice what we've been doing is like kind of like linearizing this. So pretending we collapse this structure into A, B, C, and D, and pretend that it's happened like this. And so to figure out which way round these two are, we have like a consistent tie-breaking algorithm that we run, which is like compare the asserted timestamp, as in when the person said they posted it, and the one that was earlier goes first. So this is good in that it's like a good first start, but it's bad. So it's good in the case of, so chess probably won't have this problem because chess is always I go, you go, I go, you go. I'll ignore, we'll just consider the moves within chess. Threads, this is kind of okay, half okay, because human conversations are pretty loose and you can kind of say things out of order. I think it's a little bit of a shame because my classic go-to example of why this is a problem is if this message was like, what do you all want to have for dinner? And someone says, I'm allergic to gluten, and then this person says, pasta, then the person C looks like an asshole here, because here it says pasta. Like if the order was like this, then people can't see that actually C didn't have this context and they're not a jerk. So it's not a big deal, but I think we're missing some stuff. Gatherings, this is where it's really, sorry, this should have been a tick. Chess is fine. Gatherings is where it's really a problem because what we see is in here, the editing of this context, I could assert an edit, Anders could assert an edit, and there'd be a tiebreaker and we would just lose one of the edits. One of them would just by de facto win, and you could abuse that as well. So when you've got concurrent editing of a particular field, it's a problem. books, yeah, and polls. Polls is actually, I think, okay, because I think the field can only be edited by the person who set the poll up, I think, or maybe we actually stop polls from. There are only certain fields that you can't change the question of the poll. You can only change when its closing time is, so it's not really too dangerous. Although it's not perfect. Okay. So this is all familiar and known. Yep. Okay, so what I wanted to do was, I guess I'll lead you through our thinking, or some of the research and thinking I did. I actually wanted to look at gatherings in particular because they're they turn out to be a really rich test case. So coming back to gatherings, there's several fields, right? So there's title, the description. Wow, this handwriting. What is there? There's the time and location. There's the attendees. And there's replies. I'll call them comments, I guess. And what we see is that these things behave quite differently. They're very different. These ones are all alike. They are they're like an overwrite mutation. Like you're mutating a fixed field. This one is this is like a set. So we've got we can all contribute to this. Like Mikey could say I'm coming and it doesn't interfere with you and me coming. And Mikey could say I'm not coming and similarly it's fine. This one is different. This one is as well. This is like an append. Yeah, maybe. It could be. So, yeah. Does append, I can't remember if append has two P's or not. So there's these three, within this thing, there's these three different types of interaction on these different sort of fields. And one of the things that I noticed through talking about this with Ayosha is that we didn't really have, there's kind of there's a recipe for how to reduce, so you get these mutations that come in. Let me just pull some of them in. Here's one with the start time and the title and stuff. But there's nothing in this message about how to reduce them. You just that's logic that's application specific. And it's pretty good, it mostly works. But he came up with a suggestion that perhaps we could formalize these things with he came up with this name strategies. So there's a strategy, and you can see I've kind of started to name these. These follow an override strategy. These follow attendees. So that's one idea. The other idea is strategies. The other idea is that we add some more mathematics. So monoids are a type of set, and so forget that word, it's not useful, but rather thinking of things as mutations or transformations. So, and if we think about some of the mathematics that's been done around these things, it can actually inform how we should better write some of these mutations. In particular, if we write them in certain ways, this one, we can make it totally conflict free. So this is kind of getting into the neighborhood of like CRDTs and stuff. So you can go really hardcore, or you can just dabble with a little bit of this mathematics and get some really nice mutations. So that's what we've been doing, what I've been doing. And the other thing I've been doing is getting away from this idea here, getting away from this like faking it linearization thing, and actually reducing this graph. So I've written some tools where basically A is a mutation. I wish these words weren't here anymore, but like A says do something, B says do something, C says do something as well. What we can do is combine these two mutations, these transformations, into one here. So there's like a new state, which is, and on the math side of things, there's like concat A, B is the state here, and concat AC is here, and then we see if, and then we can write some tests to see if these two states are mergeable. If they are, then we can automatically merge. Otherwise, this needs to be a merge conflict resolution message. Yeah, so that's some of the stuff I've been writing. So that's over in this module ssb-tangle. Yeah, so it is, but the yeah, I think the API is still, yep. So some of the merge conflict stuff isn't fully done, but I've like made quite a lot of inroads. So yeah, and I'm using this in the AHO work. So for example, I'm using it in SSB profile. So this is a profile which is taking the thread approach, and rather than using about messages and pointing to a feed ID, we mint a sort of new thread and then say that's going to be my profile, and one of the affordances of that is well, we have a need to make profiles of many different people. They could be ancestors who don't have key pairs or whatever, but it's also really nice for the case where we want to have multiple feed IDs be attached to a single source of information. So, you know, my phone and my laptop all share information. So so yeah, this is using ssb-tangle to reduce things. And I think, what did I wanted to show you? Just to give you an idea, I've got this idea of a spec folder, and a specification for profiles, for example, is made up of two things. It's made up of a schema. Yep, so so the specification is made up of a schema, like this is what the message types should look like, and that's JSON schema, and a strategy, and it gets really simple looking. Look, check this out. Here's the fields, and I've got some I've got the overwrite type strategy and a really simple implementation of a set, which could be improved in the future, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's actually really nice because still getting to like I'm like writing the same code over and over again, but it's getting to be that writing CRUD-like stuff with create, read, update, and ultimately delete as well, or like tombstoning delete, is actually really easy, because if you realize that you want to add a new field, you don't have to go and mess with too much stuff. You just change your schema, change the strategy, and you're almost done. So I don't know, I think I'm stretching that almost done definition a bit, but maybe I'll show you what it looks like. So it's most relevant for get. So I get the root message and then pass that root message to this thing which fetches the... Yeah, this is a little bit ugly. So the heads is what I'm calling, like this is the head of the tangle. It's the most recent, and there could be multiple of them. And that the reason I'm using the word heads is because one of the things that came up when in conversations with Dominic and Matt about tangles is that that this is called a hydra, or we decided to call this state a hydra. So a hydra is a tangle with multiple heads. Hydra, like the mythical creature. Yep. So over here in fetch heads, what that does is I'll just show you. Go and get the backlinks, look for the update messages basically, check that they're of the right form, and then I run this reduce function. Where does that come from? Oh yeah, reduce is one of the tools that I made within this ssb-tangle module, and reduce takes the root, the updates, which are all of the messages that aren't the root in the tangle, and the strategy, and then some other options about where to get the tangle information within each message. So this is yep, so people can store tangle information wherever they want. In my case, I'm storing it under tangles profile, and where the transformation information is stored. So in this case, it's just the body of the message. Yeah, and the reason we have these two things as separate is it's just a convenience, really. The tangle reduce method needs to know where it's going to start walking through this cloud of points, and so root is just like the entry point of this graph. Please, yeah. Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, great. Yep, happily. So in the past, the information on a messages has been under root and branch. We wanted to change this, or I wanted to change this to root and previous, because this confused the hell out of pretty much everyone who encountered it. We also noticed that tangles are a powerful way to associate. They're basically a tool for associating a collection of messages and ordering them, giving them some sort of partial ordering. So it could be chess moves, or it could be book edits, or whatever. But also, another way that you could go is, say, I make a new profile called mix, and I make an edit to that saying, so this is my laptop identity says this, and then another edit from my laptop. I might say access, like I add access to mix desktop. And now I've got and then my desktop says, then we can start to have like a tangle of messages. So this is like an identity where I can have multiple devices contributing. So this is nice. This is the idea of a profile, but and this is like pretty self-contained. But what's confusing is like, okay, I've got these two identities, like mixed desktop and mixed laptop. Now there's this gathering over here, and I want to say I'm going. Mix is going. Mix is attending. How do I say that? How do I say that such that people know they don't need to worry about where it came from? Well, yeah, I want to think of mix as a collection of entities now. Like, so what I do is like, this might be like some hash. I can then say, so I can say attendee is some hash. But that doesn't help people know. They would see the author as something. They would see, like, I happen to author this from my laptop. But there's another way that we can go here. So there's like, what if we had two tangle areas? So, sorry, if we had two tangle aspects. So, sorry, I'm like scribbling to go faster. What if there's like the gathering grouping? So that helps me figure out where this sits within the scope of this gathering. And then there's also like an identity tangle, and that helps me figure out where it sits in this context. So I simultaneously say, yeah, two tangles. And so, yeah, and that helps us gain context on where this was in this context and in this context. And notice, like, one interesting noticing is that, so this is what I've been calling a multi-feed identity. But actually, the difference between a multi-feed identity and a group is not so much different. Like, this could be mix and mix other device, or it could be mix and unders. And so in this way, if I wanted, I could speak on behalf of the group here, and say this group will be attending that gathering. In terms of private groups, there's I think you need to go sort of nowish, so I don't want to. Okay. I'm not going to edit this video to remove that. So yeah, private groups. So basically, it could be that you have a private group, and within this group you have a gathering, or a book review, or a chess game, or whatever. like when you create something in here, similarly you will want at least 2 tangles. You'll have a the gathering tangle, which helps you understand its context within here. So this is a group. It's an exciting G. And then a group tangle, or like an identity tangle, and that helps people understand, because this will have a group ID, a unique identifier, and it could be a hash, but I'll come back to this. But by signaling that there's a root and it's like group ID, you can then do lookups and say, show me all of the new posts in this group, and this at least will help you find that. It'll also help you like arrange things in an order within that group, and that's really it. The this is unlikely to be a message ID, because for private groups we want this to be anonymous. Correct. So you could, it would be this group tangle is going to get in. We don't know what implications of that are. We don't know. I think what's tricky for most people is that they think about the like previous as being like a reply, but it's not really. It's about being able to get an order. Yeah, but I think you've already got that down. Oh, I just scribbled that really quickly. So that's right, yeah. Uh, well, this is more just like into what context are you publishing this, and a particular message about attendance. I would be saying, me mix is attending, and so there would only be one identity in here. That's right. It's exactly it. Yeah, so it's like shifting. I mean, we have to do this to get away from identities being bound. Like, the alternative is whenever you see an author, go to the author, then do some other lookup, which says which other authors are associated with this author. Like look for same as messages. So it'll be the same problem in a different format, but the advantage of putting it here is that when we start doing like access control stuff, you can, so that this message might be an edit which says Anders is not allowed to, it makes more sense here, Anders is not allowed to start gatherings. And if I made that access control change in this group, you want to know the ordering in which it happened, because if I said Anders is only allowed to like observe, and then you start a gathering, which one happened first? Yeah. But a bunch of the access control stuff is yet to be built as well. That's like an unknown. Yeah. So this is an open question. It's like, the way that we're doing this is as you went straight to it by asking about that array thing, and it's like at the moment this is an object, and the gathering thing is an object with root and previous. I haven't heard a compelling case for why you would want to tangle reference to groups in the same message. Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I've found with this is you can get yourself in a real bind with reasoning about these things. And I've gone into the deep and complex end of it and come out being like with kind of simple, stupid suggestions. And I'm actually pretty happy about this. I think that it blocks you from, this one, adding multiple identities, or that it's hard to feels good, because if we don't know how to do it yet, we shouldn't let people accidentally do it. Is that a good point to stop? Yeah. Yeah, I talked about this with Matt. Let me see if I can... Actually, the image from the gathering conversation that we had. I don't think this is the diagram for it. We talked about that. The links is they don't work when you have branching. Litma-links only work, or litma-links, as Ayosha has described them, only work when you've got a linear, like a single feed. Whereas these multi-feed identities can have branches and merges, and so we can't use straight tidy litma-links, but we can do things like periodically publish a summary or something like that. Yeah, I think that uh, no, that doesn't work, because here we have several messages, and say this is one of the litma-link spine. Because do you know? I think about the litma-links as like a spine. There's like kind of like numbers, like Fibonacci numbers, like 1, 2, what are they, 3, 5, 8. So there are these like this number, this message thinks it's a special message on the spine, and so does this one, so you're fucked immediately. Yeah, I think yeah, I think it's a good idea, but what Matt and I discovered was that adding the requirement for partial replication to this makes it incredibly hard. Not to say that we can't do it, but I think it's got to the point where like I I had to like stop looking at partial replication and being able to support that as well, because we're already trying to support like merge conflicts and and private groups, and to be honest, like merge conflicts and private groups are a higher priority for me at the moment, and I think so. Yeah, I'm not against them, and mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yep, yep, nice. Um, I've been one one thing that I've been doing is writing quite explicit. Like I've made some of the messages look a lot more transform like, so it's a little bit gross looking when you first see it, but wow, you really can't see it within my code, sorry. um, um, here's what a message can look like with the fields that are variable. This is a like valid overwrite transform, and I didn't have to put this set in here, but I did it to force people to see these fields can't be changed. They're like locked in once you publish the root, whereas these are the mutable ones. And the simple set type ones look even weirder than this, but that was like a requirement for some of the mathematical properties. Anyway, I'd be happy to talk about that later if it's useful, but I don't think it is so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the I've written ssb-tangles so that it can take as you've seen, there's that like get thread. It takes these options for like fetching, and this actually means that you can transform things into a nice format. What is going to be a problem is the like flattening of tangles. Like if some things have just been totally fine and don't care and just are continuing to like ignore the branching and don't deal with the conflict, the concept of merge conflicts, then they're not going to be so compatible with this. I think what I'm doing is building with like this profile thing and with these like family trees that I'm building. I'm just building them in a way that I think is the best for the future, and I don't really know what we're going to do about changing gatherings or conversation threads. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Oh, here's an example of the set type. This is like if you wanted to add alt names. This is anything above 1 gets counted as like, you know, a valid thing in the set. If something is 0 or below, then it just gets ignored from the final set when you like resolve the all the transformations. This gets, yeah. Okay. Should we pause there, because I think you're now significantly late. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to catch up with regular mutable, but I've cancelled the and stuff. Yeah, thanks for